Have you ever reached the end of the day feeling completely exhausted, even though you can't point to anything physically demanding that you actually did? Maybe you slept enough. Maybe you didn't work harder than usual. Yet somehow it feels like your mind has been carrying a weight that your body simply can't explain. What if the real problem isn't that you're lazy, weak, or unmotivated? What if your brain has been trying to tell you something important for a very long time? Most people think emotional burnout only happens to doctors, nurses, firefighters, or people working 80-hour weeks. But emotional exhaustion doesn't care what your job title is. It doesn't ask how much money you make or whether other people think your life looks successful. It quietly builds in the background while you're doing everything you're supposed to do. It grows every time you ignore your own emotional needs just to keep moving forward. One of the biggest misconceptions about emotional burnout is believing that it arrives suddenly. In reality, it almost never does. It's usually the result of hundreds or even thousands of tiny moments where you pushed yourself just a little further than your emotional limits. You answered one more email even though your brain begged you to stop. You smiled when you wanted to cry. You said yes when everything inside you wanted to say no. None of those moments seemed important on their own, but together they slowly emptied your emotional reserves. Imagine carrying a backpack. If someone places a single book inside it, you barely notice. Add another one tomorrow, then another the next day, and eventually you're carrying 30 books without realizing how heavy the load has become. Emotional burnout works almost exactly the same way. The problem isn't usually one massive event. It's the constant accumulation of emotional weight that never gets removed. Psychologists often describe emotional energy as a limited resource. Every decision you make, every difficult conversation, every stressful situation, every disappointment, every conflict, and even every act of self-control requires a small amount of mental energy. Most of the time, your brain can recover. But when the demands constantly exceed your ability to recharge, something changes. Instead of bouncing back after a difficult day, you begin waking up already tired. Your weekends stop feeling refreshing. Vacations provide only temporary relief. Activities you once enjoyed begin to feel like obligations. Even simple tasks seem strangely overwhelming. What's fascinating is that your brain isn't trying to punish you. It's trying to protect you. Think about that for a moment. Many of the symptoms people associate with burnout are actually survival mechanisms. Your lack of motivation isn't necessarily laziness. Your emotional numbness isn't necessarily a personality change. Your difficulty concentrating isn't proof that you've become less intelligent. These may all be your brain's attempt to conserve what little emotional energy remains. It's similar to how your phone automatically enters low power mode when the battery gets dangerously low. Suddenly certain functions become limited. Performance slows down. Brightness decreases. The phone isn't broken. It's trying to survive long enough until it can recharge. Human beings do something remarkably similar. When emotional resources become critically depleted, your brain starts reducing non-essential functions. Creativity often declines first. Then curiosity. Then excitement. Eventually even hope can begin to fade, not because your future is hopeless, but because your mind is trying to save energy. This explains why emotionally burned out people often say something that confuses everyone around them. I don't feel sad. I just don't feel much at all. Emotional numbness isn't the absence of emotion. It's often emotional overload reaching its limit. Another surprising aspect of burnout is that high achievers are especially vulnerable. You might assume disciplined, hardworking people are naturally resistant to emotional exhaustion. Ironically, the opposite is often true. People who take pride in being dependable frequently ignore early warning signs. They convince themselves that rest is something they'll earn later. They become experts at functioning while exhausted. Eventually they don't even recognize how tired they've become because constant fatigue starts feeling normal. This creates a dangerous cycle. The more exhausted they feel, the harder they push themselves to compensate. They work longer hours, become more productive, help more people, and suppress their emotions even further. From the outside they may appear successful. Inside they're quietly running out of fuel. One of the most overlooked contributors to emotional burnout is something psychologists sometimes call emotional labor. This isn't physical work. It's the invisible effort required to manage emotions throughout the day. Pretending you're okay when you're struggling. Remaining calm while someone else is angry. Listening patiently when you're emotionally drained yourself. Trying to keep everyone around you comfortable while ignoring your own discomfort. Every one of these experiences consumes emotional energy. Parents experience it. Teachers experience it. Healthcare workers experience it. Customer service employees experience it. Managers experience it. Caregivers experience it. Even close friendships and relationships can involve emotional labor when one person consistently carries the emotional weight for everyone else. The difficult part is that emotional labor rarely receives recognition. Nobody congratulates you for staying calm during a stressful meeting. Nobody notices how much energy it took to remain patient after a difficult conversation. Yet your nervous system notices every single time. Your brain keeps score even when you don't. There's another psychological pattern that quietly feeds emotional burnout. The belief that your worth depends on your usefulness. Many people unknowingly grow up believing they deserve love, respect, or approval only when they're accomplishing something. So resting feels uncomfortable. Doing nothing feels guilty. Relaxing feels irresponsible. Productivity becomes tied to identity. If this sounds familiar, consider this question. When was the last time you allowed yourself to rest without feeling like you should be doing something more productive? For many people, that question is surprisingly difficult to answer. Modern culture often celebrates constant hustle. We're surrounded by messages encouraging us to wake up earlier, work harder, optimize every minute, build multiple income streams, exercise daily, read more books, improve ourselves endlessly, and somehow maintain perfect relationships at the same time. Self-improvement can be valuable. But when improvement becomes endless, your nervous system never receives permission to simply exist. Your brain begins treating ordinary life as an endless performance review. No one can sustain that forever. Another hidden cause of emotional exhaustion is decision fatigue. Every day you make hundreds or even thousands of decisions. What should I eat? Should I answer this message now? Do I confront this problem or avoid it? Should I spend money or save it? Should I stay or leave? Each decision consumes a small amount of mental energy. This helps explain why emotionally exhausted people sometimes struggle with incredibly simple choices. Choosing a movie suddenly feels overwhelming. Deciding what to cook becomes frustrating. Picking clothes feels exhausting. It's not because those decisions became harder. It's because your mental battery became smaller. Relationships also play a major role in emotional burnout. Healthy relationships tend to recharge emotional energy. Unhealthy relationships quietly drain it. Imagine spending time with someone who constantly criticizes you, dismisses your feelings, creates unnecessary conflict, or leaves you feeling emotionally responsible for their happiness. Your nervous system interprets that as ongoing stress. Even if you can't explain exactly why, you often leave those interactions feeling heavier than before. Now imagine someone who listens without judgment, makes you feel understood, respects your boundaries, and allows you to be yourself. Notice how different that feels. Your body recognizes emotional safety long before your mind fully understands it. One of the most powerful psychological discoveries in recent decades is that human beings don't recover from stress simply by removing stress. We recover by experiencing genuine safety. There's a difference. A person can take a vacation while constantly checking work emails. They removed themselves from the office. They didn't remove themselves from the stress. Someone else might spend a quiet evening at home but continue mentally replaying arguments, worrying about tomorrow, or criticizing themselves internally. Physically resting doesn't always mean emotionally recovering. Your nervous system needs evidence that the threat has passed. That's why activities like meaningful conversations, laughter, spending time in nature, prayer, meditation, creative hobbies, or simply sitting peacefully without pressure can be surprisingly restorative. They communicate something important to your brain. You're safe. You can stop preparing for battle. Many people wait until burnout becomes unbearable before making changes. Unfortunately, emotional exhaustion rarely disappears overnight. Recovery usually happens the same way burnout developed. Slowly. One healthy habit. One honest conversation. One boundary. One good night's sleep. One peaceful afternoon. One decision to stop carrying responsibilities that were never yours. Healing isn't dramatic. It's repetitive. There's another truth that many people find uncomfortable. Sometimes burnout isn't caused by doing too much. It's caused by doing too much of what doesn't matter to you. Human beings can work incredibly hard when their efforts align with purpose. But spending years disconnected from your values creates a different kind of exhaustion. Imagine rowing a boat as hard as you possibly can. Hours pass. Days pass. Then you discover you've been rowing in the wrong direction. The physical effort wasn't wasted. But emotionally, something breaks. Purpose acts like psychological fuel. Without it, even manageable responsibilities begin feeling unbearably heavy. This doesn't necessarily mean quitting your job or changing your entire life tomorrow. Sometimes it simply means reconnecting with what genuinely matters to you outside of achievement. Relationships. Faith. Learning. Kindness. Creativity. Helping others. Personal growth. Moments of gratitude. These experiences remind your nervous system that life is bigger than your to-do list. Perhaps the most important realization about emotional burnout is this. You are not your level of productivity. You are not the number of tasks you completed today. You are not your inbox. You are not your deadlines. You are not your performance reviews. Your value existed long before your accomplishments, and it will remain long after them. That's easy to say but difficult to believe because many of us were taught exactly the opposite. We learned to celebrate achievement while quietly ignoring emotional well-being. Yet your mind doesn't separate the two. Ignoring emotional health eventually affects motivation, creativity, memory, relationships, physical health, and even decision-making. Everything is connected. So if you've been feeling emotionally exhausted lately, maybe this isn't evidence that you're failing. Maybe it's evidence that you've been surviving for longer than you realize. Maybe your mind isn't asking you to become stronger. Maybe it's asking you to become kinder to yourself. Because real strength isn't pretending you're never tired. Real strength is recognizing your limits before your body is forced to recognize them for you. Your brain was never designed to operate under constant pressure without recovery. Your heart was never meant to carry every burden alone. And your emotional well-being isn't a luxury that can wait until everything else is finished. It's the foundation that allows everything else to exist. Perhaps today is the first time you've realized that feeling emotionally drained doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It may simply mean you've been carrying invisible weight for far too long. The good news is that awareness changes everything. The moment you understand what's happening inside your mind, you stop blaming yourself for symptoms that were never signs of weakness. Instead, they become signals. Signals inviting you to slow down, reconnect with yourself, protect your energy, and remember something that modern life often makes us forget. Even the strongest minds need rest. Even the kindest hearts need care. Even the most resilient people need permission to put the backpack down once in a while. And perhaps that's not giving up at all. Perhaps that's exactly how healing begins. If this helped you understand your mind better, subscribe for more videos like this.